$10,000. A solid steel underground shell, nuclear and chemical air filtration, double locking pressure doors, a 6-month supply of premium freeze-dried food stacked neatly against the wall. You look at it and you think you have successfully outsmarted the end of the world. But when the grid goes permanently dark, when an electromagnetic pulse strips the sky, or the global financial system snaps, that expensive steel cylinder does not save you. It buries you inside a highly engineered, high-tech coffin that you paid to build. I spent over 500 hours looking into this. I reviewed official structural protection manuals, underground temperature data, and psychological isolation logs from deep space simulation projects. I stripped away the internet prepper fantasies and the corporate marketing hype to look at raw, uncompromising physics. A steel box buried beneath a tiny suburban lot means absolutely nothing when the groundwater table shifts 3 feet upward after a heavy rain. A military-grade blast door is completely worthless when 6 inches of unmanaged ash, mud, or radioactive sediment settles over your intake valves and seals them from the outside world. The wrong shelter does not just fail during a disaster, it kills you slowly and methodically from the inside out while you sit there thinking you are safe. The right alternative multiplies your structural survival odds by a factor of 10. Today, I am going to break down the exact mechanical laws that transform expensive commercial bunkers into immediate underground tombs. Then I will outline the precise 3-step tactical alternative that keeps your family alive. Remember rule number 1 of the New World. True protection is not about hiding from your environment. It is about operating successfully within it. When you build a structure that relies on defying physics rather than cooperating with it, the survival clock is ticking from the moment you lock the hatch. Most commercial bunker manufacturers sell you a steel or fiberglass shell, tell you to bury it 8 feet deep, and assure you that the earth will maintain a comfortable temperature. This is a lethal miscalculation because the human body is an unceasing, highly efficient heat engine. A single adult radiates approximately 100 watts of metabolic heat every single hour. That number climbs quickly when you add a spouse, children, and the energy output of emergency battery banks and cooking appliances. Soil is an incredibly dense insulator. It absorbs heat, but it holds onto it tightly. In an underground space with standard dirt shielding, the heat generated by your family cannot radiate out into the earth fast enough. Within 3 to 4 days of continuous occupation, the ambient temperature inside a small backyard tank will skyrocket, while the relative humidity climbs to 90%. You will not starve or choke on nuclear fallout, but you will literally suffocate in your own sweat because the surrounding earth has baked like an oven. Then there is the issue of loose soil. Under the stress of flash flooding, broken city water mains, or seismic shifts, soil undergoes a terrifying process called liquefaction and begins to behave exactly like a dense fluid. According to basic physics, any object submerged in a fluid is buoyed up by a force equal to the weight of the fluid it displaces. A hollow steel cylinder filled mostly with air displaces an immense volume of heavy mud, meaning it naturally wants to float to the top. If your bunker lacks massive poured concrete ballast anchors to latch it down, the rising water table will literally push the structure upward toward the surface. As the earth shifts, the frame warps, and a microscopic structural bend of just 2 millimeters is enough to permanently jam a steel blast hatch, leaving you trapped underground. But let's look past the structural flaws. Your bunker is a closed ecosystem that requires a continuous intake of oxygen and a continuous output of carbon dioxide. This means your life depends entirely on 2 tiny, vulnerable plastic pipes protruding directly out of the surface of your lawn. They are your structure's windpipe, and they are the ultimate tactical vulnerability. In a true collapse scenario, the greatest threat to your survival is the desperate wandering population center only a few miles away. A single individual walking across your backyard will easily notice the faint mechanical hum of your intake fan. They do not need a torch to cut through your blast doors or heavy explosives to get inside. A single cup of gasoline poured down that pipe or a simple bucket of mud dumped down the exhaust will make your multi-thousand-dollar underground fortress completely unlivable in less than 6 minutes. They don't even have to bend down to defeat you. True survival architecture does not rely on hiding in a metal bubble beneath a vulnerable target zone. It relies on a 3-phase system of passive engineering and analog infrastructure. Step 1 is the topographical offset. You must utilize the gray zone matrix and stop looking down into your suburban dirt. Look outward at the broader geography instead. Instead of sinking your life savings into burying a steel fuel tank in a high-risk suburban lot where food supply chains dry up in 48 hours, that exact same capital can be deployed to purchase raw acreage. For the price of a commercial steel bunker hull, you can own 5 to 20 acres of rugged, off-grid wilderness inside an area protected by natural topographic barriers like the Missouri Ozarks, East Tennessee, or the Idaho foothills. The amateur prepper spends his entire life savings trying to fortify a house inside a trap, while the professional prepper spends his money to leave the trap entirely. Distance is a kinetic shield that never rusts, never floods, and never runs out of batteries. Step 2 is the subsurface modular core. You do not require a luxury underground space station designed by an aerospace contractor. You just need a reinforced concrete root architecture built beneath an ordinary home. Instead of an independent metal tube, you pour a thick, continuous concrete foundation cellar directly beneath the footprint of your rural home. Poured concrete interacts with underground earth pressure with immense efficiency because the weight of the entire home sitting on top acts as a massive downward anchor. It cannot float and it cannot buckle. More importantly, this architecture serves a vital everyday functional purpose long before any crisis ever arrives by acting as a passive geothermal vault. Without drawing a single watt of grid electricity, a properly built concrete subcore maintains a constant, stable temperature year-round to keep seeds, medical supplies, and root vegetables perfectly preserved. If a kinetic emergency occurs, it functions instantly as an armored, concealed safe room. If nothing happens, it remains the highly efficient heart of your everyday homestead. Step 3 is parallel infrastructure coupling. High-tech bunkers fail with absolute certainty because they violate the law of mechanical redundancy and rely on complex life support systems that eventually break down. If the automated carbon dioxide scrubber fails, or the digital inverter on your solar array encounters a power surge, your life support stops forever. Connect your living space with passive analog systems that require zero digital intervention instead. Connected to a gravity-fed water line running from an elevated spring through a filter block, a solid brass deep well hand pump, and a massive brick heater. If your water source is situated at a higher elevation than your cabin, gravity provides endless hydraulic pressure without electricity, pumps, or switches. A heavy cast iron wood stove acts simultaneously as your kitchen, your water purifier via boiling, your central heating source, and a natural vacuum draft that pulls fresh air into the cellar without requiring an electric intake fan. By building an analog, resource-secure homestead, you are not counting down the days until a digital component burns out. The survival industrial complex wants you to believe that security is something that can be ordered out of a catalog or delivered on a flatbed trailer. They exploit your very real anxieties about the fragility of modern society to sell you a product that turns into a tomb the moment the world actually tests its structural integrity. Authentic preparedness cannot be bought with a single swipe of a credit card. True multi-generational security is a deliberate, daily practice of positioning your life on the right side of geography, building with passive materials, and decoupling your family from complex grids. Stop planning your retreat into a high-tech coffin and start building an architecture that can actually sustain human life and community when the old world finally fades away. Choose your ground carefully, because the exact coordinates you stand on today will dictate exactly where your story ends tomorrow.